Everywhere in the world, schools represent a clear example of our inclusive policy, where no child will be left behind. This was the position of President Muhammadu Buhari recently when he commissioned a comprehensive special school in Lafia, Nasarawa State, with facilities to cater for the needs of the blind, deaf, the crippled, and those with Down syndrome from kindergarten. Caring for the aging population and people with disabilities is a key focus in the Sustainable Development Goals framework. The SDGs mandates governments of countries to ensure that no one is left behind as the global community moves towards the 2030 target date for sustainable development. Hello and welcome to Agenda 2030. The program gives you an insight into the impact of the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals, popularly known as the SDGs, in Nigeria. The set of 17 goals and 169 targets of the SDGs aim to help countries end poverty and hunger, protect the planet from degradation, foster peace, and realize human rights. As usual, today's edition promises to be insightful. I am Toyin Nkamiang John. To stay with us. On today's episode, we will be focusing on issues of people living with disabilities and aging population in Nigeria and the strategic efforts of the government to improve their lot. The SDGs in goals 4, 5, 8, 10, 11, 16 and 17 specifically seeks inclusiveness and requires that none of them is left behind. In the course of the program, we will bring you reports and interviews on ways to avoid discrimination against that segment of the population.
People living with disabilities are described as those with long-term physical, mental, intellectual or sensory impairments, which hinder their complete and effective participation in the society on equal basis with others. It has been estimated that 15% of the world's population, around 1 billion people, live with a disability, according to the World Report on Disability published in 2011. People living with disabilities are believed to be one of the most excluded group of persons. For example, they are at a disadvantage in terms of benefiting from socio-economic and political opportunities. Some of the odds against people with disabilities include difficulties in accessing healthcare, education, discrimination in employment, which further makes it difficult for them to lift themselves out of poverty. World leaders saw the need to tackle this at the United Nations General Assembly in 2015 when they adopted the 2030 Agenda of the Sustainable Development, including disability and reduction of inequality in the SDGs. This act gives hope that people living with disabilities will not be left behind in efforts to transform the world. The words disabilities or persons with disabilities are specifically mentioned 11 times in the resolution 70/1, as well as in targets of goals 4, 8, 10, 11, and 17. Of course, the overarching aim of the agenda is to leave no one behind, meaning everyone must be included as active participants in the journey to 2030 without regards to race, age, or other peculiar circumstances or station of life. The President formally expressed his commitment to the inclusiveness with the appointment of Dr. Samuel Inalegu Ode Ankali as his Senior Special Assistant on Disability, with a mandate to assist on all issues of disability, take care of the welfare and well-being of people with disabilities, mobilize them for national development, and protect, promote their rights and privileges in governance and the society. Another major effort of the President in this regard was the signing of the National Senior Citizens Center Act 2018, which allows the establishment of the National Senior Citizens Center by institutions and 3 tiers of government in the country to allow for proper care, training, orientation and reorientation, and care for senior citizens in Nigeria. Also, the National Assembly has various bills under consideration to address various areas of disability. The lawmakers have already passed the Disability Bill, which many have described as a potential game changer for people living with disabilities in Nigeria. At the subnational level, states across the country are also introducing policies and initiatives designed to ensure greater inclusiveness for people living with disabilities. President Buhari also recently followed this up by commissioning a comprehensive special school in Lafia, Nasarawa State, which facilitates to cater for the needs of the blind, deaf, crippled, and those with Down syndrome from kindergarten. The project was jointly executed between the Universal Basic Education (UBE) and the Nasarawa State government at a cost of 2 billion naira.
This school will cater for the deaf, the blind, and other physically challenged. Indeed, this is a clear example of our inclusive policy where no child, man or woman, will be left behind.
Thanks for staying with us. And as usual, you can always watch this program and other episodes by subscribing to our YouTube channels on youtube.com/Fresh News TV and youtube.com/Agenda 2030 TV. You can also watch this program live on Facebook. Just log on to www.facebook.com/Fresh News NG and www.facebook.com/Agenda 2030 TV. Follow us on all our social media platforms at Agenda 2030 TV on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Remember to drop your comments and share with your contacts. Do use the hashtag Agenda 2030 and hashtag Agenda 2030 TV.
Agenda 2030. As a successor framework for the Millennium Development Goals, the global community rolled out a bigger, deeper, and more encompassing framework called the Sustainable Development Goals, designed to transform our world, lift the poor out of poverty, as well as ensure inclusive and healthy society. On Agenda 2030, we take you on a media trip to the global destination of the future we want. With everyone on board, we focus on the people and their struggle, the civil society and their agitations, the government and her development effort, the global development agenda, its 17 goals and 169 targets. We bring you all the deliberations, insightful conversations and high-level partnerships on the road to global destination. Agenda 2030, showing on this channel. Agenda 2030, leaving no one behind.
The Senior Special Assistant to the President on Sustainable Development Goals, Princess Adejoke Orilokwe Adefulere, has reiterated the commitment of the Nigerian government to the attainment of Goal 4 of the 2030 Agenda, which mandates countries across the world to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. While speaking as the special guest at the 2018 Third Annual Education Solutions SDG 4 International Conference and Training, which was held in New York, USA, the presidential aide noted that the SDG 4 is transformative and universal, attends to the unfinished business of the Education for All goals and the education-related MDGs 2 and 3, and address global and national education challenges. She noted that education is therefore essential to achieve the rest of the goals and its corresponding targets. Speaking in tune with the theme of the conference, which is bringing SDG 4 and targets to classrooms in communities, Princess Orilokwe Adefulere told the audience that the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari placed high premium on education as a key success factor in the drive to fast-track the socio-economic development of Nigeria. In demonstration of this, she revealed that the Nigerian government has proposed the employment of 500,000 teachers to fill the existing teaching gap, provide scholarship, school feeding, as well as infrastructure, especially in the northeast where schools have been run down due to Boko Haram insurgency and direct attacks on schools and teachers. As part of efforts targeted at ensuring that the aged and people with disabilities are not left behind in the implementation of the SDGs, the Senior Special Assistant to the President on SDGs is working out a strategic partnership with the United Nations Department of Social Affairs. The revelation was made when the UN team paid a courtesy visit on the office in Abuja recently. The report.
The meeting by the United Nations team was to seek areas of cooperation in the quest to addressing the prevailing challenges of the aging population in the society. The Senior Special Assistant to the President on SDGs, Princess Adejoke Orilokwe Adefulere, who was represented by the Secretary of Program in the office, Waziri Laminu, told the visiting UN team that the number of challenges confronting aging persons in Nigeria are numerous, hence the need to take the issues more seriously. He gave assurance that the office and indeed the government of President Muhammadu Buhari will continue to give more attention to the issues surrounding the aging and people with disabilities as part of efforts of the government to ensure that no one is left behind in the implementation of the SDGs.
We are delighted to receive the UN team, and we have given them assurances that we've always been working towards getting a cross-cutting approach to the issues of aging, disability, gender, and the rest of them.
Rosemary Lane, the leader of the United Nations Department of Social Affairs team, pledged full assistance in making sure that the aged in Nigeria are well attended to and integrated into the society.
You know, as we discuss from our perspective and what our department offers, certainly the capacity building of the staff on mainstreaming aging, disability, and all these issues that our office deals with, actually not just aging, into the work of the implementation of the SDGs, monitoring and evaluation at the state as well as the federal level. I think that's clear that's off the top of my head. I can see immediately where we can offer assistance. I think we have to study other avenues that were discussed, but that clearly is the low-hanging fruit, so to speak, that we can, clearly help with immediately.
In her remarks, the leader of Dave Omokaro Foundation, Emeru Omokaro, noted the widespread lack of understanding and poor knowledge of issues bordering on elder persons, hence the need to create awareness. She therefore sought the collaboration of the SDGs office in tackling the issues.
As we have a desk on youth, and we have a desk on gender, and we have some other desk, I want to plead, there is need for a desk on aging and older persons. And you will discover that if you create that desk, you see that you have cross-cutting issues that you get to understand better.
Delivering the official remarks of the office, the head of sectors in the SDGs office, Pharmacist Yahya Hamza, gave a breakdown of efforts made so far in attending to the issues of the aged in Nigeria and also reeled out the areas of challenges and that which needs support from the UN delegations.
With the 2030 Agenda's commitment to leave no one behind, the SDGs clearly identify older persons and persons with disabilities as an integral part of development. The older persons are confronted with a number of challenges which include poverty, access to basic health care, issues of abuse, rights violation, non-inclusion, etc. A key initiative being executed under the MOU is the provision of free legal services for the underprivileged and vulnerable groups, especially the aged and rural women in cases of gender violence and violation of human rights. Aging issues is cross-cutting in the SDGs and is crucial to achieving the SDGs and ensuring that no one is left behind. As a coordinating office for the SDGs implementation in Nigeria, we have identified the following as areas for support. Bullet point 1, capacity building for developing policies on aging. 2, healthcare services and social protection for the elderly. 3, strengthening the National Bureau of Statistics and other ministries, departments, and agencies on data collection, collation, and utilization on aging-related issues, and also the National Population Commission to collect disaggregated population data. 4, sensitization and advocacy on the need to include older persons in the planning and implementation of age-responsive policies. 5, sensitization and advocacy on the need for legislation to protect the rights of the elderly and vulnerable.
2 years down the line since the adoption of 17 Sustainable Development Goals (SDGs) by United Nations member states, including Nigeria, Analysts have shown significant interest in assessing the level of commitment by member states to their early domestication. In the spirit of the 2030 agenda, a joint committee of the National Assembly recently demonstrated their commitment by playing host to stakeholders in a high-level meeting targeted at addressing the cross-cutting issues of inequality. We bring you the report from our studios.
Pursuant to actualization of the development goals, the Joint Committee on the SDGs of the National Assembly, in partnership with the United Nations SDGs Action Campaign, organized a briefing session on addressing inequalities in Nigeria. The meeting had in attendance high-level stakeholders, including policymakers, civil society leaders, the United Nations system, international development community, the academia and media, amongst others, to discuss the challenges posed by multidimensional inequalities and the roles parliaments and other stakeholders can play in addressing them under the SDGs framework. The dialogue was centered on Goal 10, Reduce Inequality, and aimed to address the imperative of reducing inequality in Nigeria by redirecting the attention of policymakers and implementers of the SDGs to the core principles of strategic development. In her goodwill message at the gathering, the Senior Special Assistant to the President on SDGs, Princess Adejoke Orolokpe Adefuliwe, disagreed with the positions held by many experts who lay emphasis on Goal 1, No Poverty, as the most significant of the 17 global goals. She argued that Goal 10, Reduce Inequality, is the most significant due to its cross-cutting and transversal nature, which makes it crucial to the overall attainment of all the SDGs. The inclusion of a standalone goal on addressing inequalities means that the SDGs understand the multidimensional manifestations and implications of inequalities as a major development challenge of the 21st century. Addressing inequality, therefore, is a major step towards eradicating poverty, hunger, diseases, and creating equal access to education, healthcare, and inclusive development for every person. Princess Adejoke Orolokpe Adefuliwe further stated that to be effective in their roles as partners in driving the SDGs, the legislature at various levels need to be abreast with the causes, manifestations, and impacts of inequalities, as well as current data, program, and partnership aimed at addressing inequalities in the country. She pledged the resolve of the SDGs office at the presidency to continue to be at the center of coordinating efforts at strengthening the policy, institutional, and financial arrangements needed for the successful implementation of the agenda in Nigeria. In their remarks, the National Assembly Committee's chairman on the SDGs buttressed the established to tackle inequalities in Nigeria. They stressed to develop legislative actions and strategies for addressing inequalities at national and subnational levels.
While we support our women partners, even here in Nigeria, we have about 8 senators in the Senate. They are women. They came under the same circumstances as men. They just tried what they need to do. Just do the needful. And I believe that there's no specific agenda or plan to deprive a woman from anything. It's just that maybe men take advantage of them, that they are weaker sex. That is it. So I urge women to even get the support of other men to achieve these goals. While I also support that there should be a regulatory and institutional framework, because we know they are weak.
In his briefing, the United Nations Global Director of SDGs Action Campaign, Michel Toomey, commended Nigerian government for their outstanding leadership role exhibited at the African continent and efforts towards domestication of SDGs despite the challenges of insecurity faced in the country.
With the adoption of the SDGs, we are seeing yet again a demonstration of political will on the part of the government of Nigeria and the Nigerian Parliament in setting up institutional frameworks and a multi-stakeholder approach to domesticating and implementing the SDGs. The National Assembly of Nigeria has been a shining light amongst parliaments across the world in engaging with the SDGs. The formation of standing committees in both chambers of the Parliament is a best practice, which we as the campaign are very proud of and have been promoting globally. Nigeria is also chair of the African Network of Parliamentarians on the SDGs.
Nigeria will continue to support the United Nations in all its efforts, including the attainment of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. I thank you.
Agenda 2030, showing on this channel. Agenda 2030, leaving no one behind.
Thanks for staying with us. As we move into the quiz segment, every week on this segment, we bring to our audience at home and respondents on the streets questions related to the SDGs. Selected winners from among the participants are already being contacted and will be invited to the Agenda 2030 studios for the live quiz segment, from where the overall winner and the runners-up will be entitled to our special prizes. And as usual, we kick off the segment by first bringing to you views of the respondents on the streets.
Starting from birth, they gather them, have school for them, teach them. After teaching them, it's government's responsibility to establish them. Then if you talk of old people, the same way, old people from every family, those that their children cannot take care of them, because not every old man does not have helper. Most of the old men, they have their children that are capable. So, but those that are not capable, government is supposed to take proper care of them.
If they can create a way to take care of those people, disabled, old women, old men, I think is better.
Old people and disabled people are unique and special people, and the way they can be taken care of in our society is actually quite very difficult because of the nature and terrain of our communities. Looking at Africa first and foremost, our culture in the first place does not even allow for such kind of arrangements. But I think the best way to implement this is to domesticate it down to the grassroots level.
Possibly there need to be structures or templates that can be put in place long before these people even become old. Because if a person is already old and you want to begin to confine the person, it might become very difficult. But if the person is already contributing on a social welfare scheme, it will be easier for this person to actually imbibe whatever culture that the person must have grown with. Starting with or going forward, I believe one of the first way government can do is to actually have a commission to take care of the old and the weak.
Welcome back. Last week we asked which of the goals seeks to ensure equalities and protection of the people. For those who didn't know, goals 4, 5, 8, 10, 11, 16 and 17 all seek to ensure equalities and the protection of the people. We have some winners and will be contacted at the end of this program on how to make it to the studio. And for our question for the week, name the goal of the SDGs with the title Reduce Inequalities. Send your answers to the number and email on your screen. Do endeavor to include your name and your phone numbers in your response. Remember, you can always watch this program and other episodes by subscribing to our YouTube channels on youtube.com/FreshNewsTV and youtube.com/Agenda 2030 TV. You can also watch this program live on Facebook. Just log on to www.facebook.com/FreshNewsNG and www.facebook.com/Agenda 2030 TV. Do follow us on all our social media platforms at Agenda 2030 TV on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Remember to drop your comments and share with your contacts. Do use the hashtag Agenda 2030 and Agenda 2030 TV. And that's our package. Thank you very much for being part of the program. I am Tony Kamyang John. We'll see you again next week. Until then, bye.